Hey, Bobby from Parish Made here. Today we're going to be doing a hat patch from start to finish. I've got some leather here from Lone Star Adhesive. It's just a regular gray that relieves to black. So I'm going to get some magnets in here just to keep it down because as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, it kind of pops up sometimes. So whenever we do our measurement, we want to make sure that it's flat completely in the area that we are. All right. So let's jump over to the computer and I'll show you how we start with an image and end up with a cutout like this. Okay, so the picture we're going to be using is this map of Louisiana right here with the splatter on it. We're going to take this and put it into Inkscape, and we're going to turn that into an SVG. I'm just going to use Inkscape because it's free. So, okay, so we're going to click on this. We're going to come up here to Path, Trace Bitmap. It should default to brightness cutoff. It should default to 0.450. If you need to, you can increase that or lessen it depending on what you're doing. This is pretty high contrast, so it picks it up pretty well. But like for example, if you went all the way over here, it just kind of blacks out. But you'll see it gradually kind of move whenever you have something with a little gradient to it. So we're just going to put it back to roughly where it was. Hit apply. We're going to select the original image, delete that, move this guy over. Doesn't really matter where it goes. And then we're going to come to edit and resize page to selection so the border is around it where it should be. So, and then come over here and hit save as, because it's going to default save it as an SVG. Save it as the same thing, which I've already got it saved here, so I'm not going to save it. But and then once you get that, you're going to want to open xTool Creative Space. Now this tutorial still applies to Lightburn or whatever you're using. I'm just doing this in xTool because it's for the P2. Alright. So now that we've got it open, you can see I've got my leather. Let's do an aim to measure really quick. We're going to put it about right there. Maybe not exactly, but probably right there. 1.6. Let's get a close shot as far over as we can, so we can get right up to the edge here and not waste any material. That would be super nice. Alright, so let's come back over to here. That's the file I made earlier. Okay, so we're going to drag that SVG into there. Now you're going to want to measure the hat that you're going to put it on, just to see, you know, what your maximum allowable width and height is going to be. But for right now, what we're going to do is, since we don't want to just engrave this, we want to kind of give it a little bit of a outline to cut around. I'm going to do an offset. 2's a little much for this particular one. Sometimes you'll use 2. Just kind of have to see. 1 seems better. It's rounded, so leaving it in the rounded portion is fine. If you'll see, it did a bunch of little tiny ones in here. Make sure you click outer shapes only. Confirm. Alright, select this one to make it a little easier to understand. We're going to put this in red for a cut line, and we're going to leave the black as an engrave. So engrave here. Now I've already done test panels on this one before, and I know I need to do the power. I like it at about 26. I like it at about, just because it's a little more intricate dots in there, I'm going to leave it through 25. It's a little more broad. I usually 350, 400, whatever. Lines per centimeter, I'm going to keep it at 180. for this one. It's enough to get some good detail, but you know, you're not wasting a lot of time on extra lines. Okay, so the whole the whole thing here. I think the total we're gonna go, I think 55 maybe is gonna be a good. It's a good half patch size. Alright. And let's make this a cut. 95, 20, one pass should be plenty. Alright. Let's get that right up there. Okay. Now we're going to go to process, see what kind of time we're working with here. Got it, thanks. So 5 minutes, 19 seconds, shouldn't be too bad. So we'll get this started burning, and then we'll come back whenever it's done. Alright, we got it done, so let's see what we're dealing with here. Alright. Came out really good. Needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but I think it's quite nice. I think the hat we're putting it on is right here, so that's what we're going to be looking like when we're done. I think that goes together pretty cool. So, alright, we'll get it cleaned up, and I'll show you how we do that with the degreaser and everything. So, okay, so we got our patch here. We got our degreaser, and I got a toothbrush. This one's motorized, but that's not really required. This is the degreaser that I'm using. It's just what was available to me. I get it from Harbor Freight. I see people use all kinds of different stuff, but degreaser seems to be the key. So I like to have a sink going with a little bit of water running, and I just kind of get off the bulk of it, rinse it off. If there's any more, make a second pass, rinse it off again, and that's pretty much it. So we'll try it out. So here's what it looks like before for reference. I want to make sure to get the edges too. Okay. A little bit more on the very outer edges here where the laser was more powerful. So. Dry it off on a little microfiber there. And you can kind of see on the microfiber, see how it's darker on the edges right there. That's why we scrubbed the edges. Now this particular one, just because of this finish that's on here, and I didn't take a lot of engraved space on this one, I'm probably just going to leave it as is and stick it on the hat like it is. But if you did something that was like maybe a more porous type of a leather and you wanted to have more of a glossy sort of a finish on it, then I would put some Resolene. Also, if I would have used this exact same one, but let's say the majority of the lasering engraving was done on this and it's relieving to black and basically I'm just leaving a little bit of gray in there, then it's good to go ahead and do a Resolene layer on that to kind of soak in, and it kind of locks in and makes it look more uniform across, so you don't really see your laser lines nearly as much. It kind of self-levels just a hair. But in this case, I think it looks good as is. So we're going to let this dry, make sure that it's completely dry. I recommend possibly even drying it overnight if you've got the time to do that. Because since we just ran it through the sink, we soaked it with water. So, and this is kind of a spongy sort of material substrate in between here. So we soaked up a lot of water. So if we take this to the heat press after we feel like it's dry and we press it on the hat, you may push out some water and, bubble out the edges. And just like over here where you see the kind of dark outline, it may push out some of the soot that the laser blew back up in there, and then that'll push out on your hat. So if you have a lighter colored hat, you'll see it. It'll look not good. So let this guy dry overnight before you actually try to stick it on the hat. Okay, we're back. It's the next day, and this is dried out completely. So it's time to stick it on the patch. We're going to leave it bare because it's got a nice finish on it. If it didn't have a nice finish, or you were using like raw leather, veg tan, something like that, you may want to use something more like a resin. That's what I use on this leatherette stuff, just because it soaks down into the little fibers where you've burned away the top layer. It gets in there really nicely and seals it off. So, but we're not going to do that to this one. So I went ahead and took the adhesive or cover off of here, the little paper that comes out there. I took that off. I've got my hat press here. I don't know what company this is, however you say that. It's pretty much identical to the Vivor one that's like $150. I don't really need a $1,500 hat press. If I ever need one, I'll get one. I did go ahead and try out this platen that's heated, and it's got this wire going to this back here. I think I got that from Patch Crafters. I'll leave you a link for this, and I got this off of Amazon. If it's still on Amazon, I'll give you the link to that too. So anyway, so this is the hat we're going to be using. It's a Decky. Not sure what. There's your model if you want it. It's the coyote color. So I'm going to go ahead and this is not, I don't have to, but I'm going to take the sticker off if I can get it off. There we go. All right. So this is pretty new. I'm still trying this out. I hadn't got it down yet, but this is a pretty hard edge. So for right now, I've been covering it with just a little bit of a microfiber cloth just to kind of soften that edge. I'm probably going to have to make a silicone mold for it, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. So we're going to put this on the press and try to get your seam right here up along the edge of the bottom of the platen there. Try to frame it up best you can. If this is vertical, that'll give you a good reference line for most things that you're doing. All right, so what I'm going to do is, it's set for 290 for 60 seconds, so I'm just going to put this silicone mat that I got. I think I got this from Lone Star Adhesive. That's where I get most of my leatherette from. That's where this leatherette came from. So, so we're going to clamp this down and warm it up a little bit beforehand, because otherwise, I mean, if you don't have to do that, but this really needs to be activated. If you don't have a bottom heating platen and you don't do this preheating part right here, you really need to like heat this up with a heat gun if that's your only option. I mean, technically, I guess you could just put it on with a heat gun, but that takes a long time and you end up burning your fingertips if you're not wearing heat-resistant gloves. But again, this is $150 plus 100, I think 125 or 150, whatever it was. So, I mean, spend what you have the means for. If you have an iron, do it with an iron. If you don't, get a heat gun. They're like $30 on Amazon. Just do whatever your volume dictates. Now, if I'm doing, 20, 30 hats every couple of days, then yeah, I'll get a nice $1,500, manual press down. But in the meantime, I can just turn this thing on, it gets done, and pops open. So, all right, so now that we're preheated, we're going to take this and try to set it best we can where we want it to go. I know the center point is about in here, And how you can figure that out is look at your design software and just select this design, and usually you'll have right in the dead center, you'll have a marker telling you. All right, so we're just going to press it down, kind of get it somewhat stuck on there. If you can't or don't want to do this, you can use, like I've got some thermal tape right there, I can put it on, and it will do that if it's got like intricate designs, things, little, you know, branches or arms or things hanging off of it. I'll do that just to make sure that it doesn't shift whenever the press comes down. Okay, that's stuck on there good enough. Let's get that. Make sure you kind of pull it tight on the sides over here, because if not, if you just kind of leave it and it's not completely pulled tight, then sometimes you'll get a crease. You'll basically iron a crease into it. So if that happens, just, you know, make it go back up, pull it as tight as you can, and then usually the crease will come out of it. If not, you may have to like spritz it with a little water and do it again, because it'll kind of steam it and let the wrinkle come back out. All right, and by the way, I've got the bottom platen set at 275 and this one at 290. There is no particular reason for that. That's just where I set them, and that's where they've been. So it seems to work so far. I really didn't want to overdo it on the bottom here because I was kind of unsure how hot that was going to get. And all right. All right, let's try to pull up the edges a little bit and see, because sometimes it doesn't get down there all the way. Mind you, it is hot. Okay. I'm gonna do one more because I think the bottom of the design didn't really get under the platen perfectly. All right, we are done. Let's see. Take a towel and put this on here and kind of press it down so I don't burn my finger quite so bad. All right. Now, if you have these unstructured hats, sometimes you kind of want to, while it's still hot, don't like crease it in half, but just kind of coax it a little bit so that whenever it cools off, it'll be more in this sort of a curve, so it'll fit on the head. Because sometimes if you let it cool completely flat like that, and then you put it on your head, it kind of feels weird. So we're all right. All right, so we got done with it. It looks really good. Check your corners really well to make sure that they stick down. Obviously, we did a pretty simple design on this thing here, but you could go really elaborate. You can do different layers, stacking them on top of each other to get kind of a different effect to it. So don't be afraid to waste a little bit. Just experiment and see what works better for you. This is my first video, so if you see something that I could have done better, let me know. If you want to see certain types of videos going forward, let me know that too. I'll try to do some, you know, product reviews on small stuff, and then just some how-tos on what my workflow is. So, but this gives you a good idea from beginning to end. So, well, see you next time, guys. Thanks.